I know I've seen in Facebook groups where somebody will be willing to take a low paying salary. But Dave just said it, and I did the same thing as Dave. Like I took, $12 an hour, $10 an hour before I was a therapist to work for a place where I'd learned so much. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on our education, not even being able to work half the time to learn, and we paid a price. And so it's the same thing now.
Tony, let's start with you. What did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so it's funny. I didn't realize until you said that this is a show all about gripes and complaints and whining. So I saw two posts that I thought were pretty interesting. I'm going to bring one up here. This was a question that was asked on LinkedIn. I want to give credit. Tina Patel Ganaldo. She asked, if as your team gets bigger, does it get better, get worse? How does it change things? She ran a poll. So what's interesting about this, size does matter, doesn't it? When I started my practice, it was a therapist. I was not a physical therapist. So it was a physical therapist and myself. She is now my wife. Long story short, 4 beautiful boys. But when we hired our first person that wasn't she or myself, it was a very different culture, very different team, a completely different world. As we grew, we opened a second location, a third location. We hired more PTs, OTs. We worked with SLPs. We had brought billing in-house. We did all of this stuff, hired a full-time dedicated marketer. As the organization grew, the person who was amazing, and she was phenomenal on a 3-person team, was miserable on a 30-person team.
Wow.
So does job satisfaction go down for some people? But I also think that there's a reality that some people like working on a big team. Some people like hiding in the corners. Some people like disappearing. The bigger the team gets, then you get all these little subcultures out there. So Dave's cracking up.
I think you like to grab.
What's up, Dave? Are you with us this morning?
Morning. I just got audio. We are good. A little tech difficulties, but I think I'm up and running. Here we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So real quick, just to wrap it up, I do think that we forget as therapists, as private practice owners starting a new business, the team that worked at 2 and 3 members is not ever going to be the same team that works at 30 and 40 members. And so what's been your experience, Jimmy? You've had different opportunities like that.
Yeah, this made me think of a personality test that I took a couple of years ago. Have you guys ever heard of Strengths Finders? They're all rooted sort of the same thing, right? And the magic wasn't in the results that I got. Like, I know it's going to shock you, but I got like woo personality, communication, idea guy, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. But how does this help me? The thing that it helped me with was when I looked at everybody else's on my team, their results. And what I found was, they like stuff that I don't. And because one of my personality traits was woo, winning others over, I try to make other people happy way too much to my own detriment. I wasn't giving other people tasks because I didn't like them. Like spreadsheet stuff is a good example. So I wasn't delegating spreadsheet stuff because in my mind, that was a punishment, needed to get done. But I wanted people to like me, so I didn't give it out. Meanwhile, that other person was like, I love spreadsheet stuff. How come he doesn't give me more spreadsheet stuff? So you sort of made me think of that, which is, hey, just because a person's great on a 3-person team does not mean they're going to be great on a 30-person team, because of the parts that they liked might be gone now. Maybe everything's too big. Maybe some of their roles were dispersed. Maybe you're like, hey, let's take some of the load off of this person's plate. But the stuff he took off of her plate was the stuff she liked, was the reason that she was there. I worked for Fox Rehab for a number of years, and the CEO, Tim Fox, had a really great line. And his line was, I know something's wrong when we expand from, they started in Pennsylvania, then New Jersey, then they started expanding out. He said, I'll know something's wrong when someone says it doesn't feel the same anymore, because their whole model was scale, right? Like individual teams scattered across, but you had to have that central culture. So just because it worked in Pennsylvania and what was working there, how do you scale that? It's so simple. Look at all these unicorn companies that go, well, we've got 100 users. let's just put a couple zeros behind this, but not everything scales. And the last thing I'll share about this is it could also be a communication, like this, one of the components is a communication issue. Have you ever seen this graphic before, Tony? Dave, you ever seen that one before? It just shows you the number of lines of communication when you add someone. And that's where when Tony started with, hey, with 3 people, it's simple, right? It's just Jimmy, Tony, and Dave. When you add a 4th person, the 3 lines of communication with 3 people becomes 6. And by the time you get to 10 people, it's 45 lines of communication. And to quote Hemingway, you didn't think I was going to quote Hemingway today. The greatest problem in communication is when we think it's occurred. So that's a communication example, but not everything scales. Bigger isn't necessarily better. Dave, what do you think?
I had some microphone issues, so I missed the context of the whole intro. So I don't really understand what you guys are talking about.
Let me give it to you in 30 seconds, right? So essentially, well, bring up that graphic again for Dave, which is, hey, does job satisfaction, so it wasn't team performance. She was asking, does job satisfaction decrease as team size increases? And it was a poll question, but Tony was bringing up like, hey, why would or wouldn't it in terms of size? Bigger is just better, right? The more the merrier.
I mean, I think it's going to depend on maybe the organization, the leadership, also the mission. Is there a mission? Is there some North Star that they're shooting for? I'm sure that we talked about like the developers like at Facebook and Google that make, $400,000 a year or whatever. I mean, I'm sure they have pretty good job satisfaction, regardless of what product or what initiative that they're working on. And those are massive teams. Those are massive companies compared to a therapy practice that has 3 staff members versus 20 or 30 or 40. I think it probably depends on a whole host of things. So I could see how it would be less job satisfaction as a practice or as a company got larger. But at the same time, we've all been in big organizations, and I think we can vouch, or at least I can vouch and say I didn't have that much of a difference in job satisfaction in a smaller practice versus a larger. But again, I think everyone's going to have like their own anecdotal experience.
Ironically, big organizations like Facebook and Google that you mentioned, they work in cells. They structure it because I'm sure it's for other reasons to focus on projects and get things completed, but they actually focus on things like that in terms of team size and understanding who's seeing who.
Yeah.
One of the things real quick, I always think about with larger organizations. So we know Elon Musk bought Twitter, comes in, fires 6,000 people.
It's
like,
insane.
So again, we're like, okay, well, what's job satisfaction? How is it measured? Who determines it? Obviously the person, the employee, but
Right.
Those are 6,000 unnecessary people, and I talked to a buddy of mine. This is a funny story. I'll just share it real quick. So you guys know, I went to the game Friday night, Reds versus Giants. We got spanked. Guy pitched a no-hitter. It's the most boring game I've ever been to in my life. But then we went back Saturday night. We weren't expecting to do this. Buddy of mine texts us on the way home from the worst game and is like, hey, we've got box seats, 4 tickets. You and your wife come join us. So we're like, cool. We never did that. Okay, we'll go. We get there. I'm talking to my buddy. And I'm like, so explain to me what you do. I still don't understand what you do. He works for a big insurance company. And he was like, well, I used to do project management. And then my boss, we got acquired and all this stuff. So they just kind of keep me around. When there's a problem, I can solve it. That sounds like a song. I know that's a lyric. When there's a problem.
If you got a problem, I'll solve it.
So I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting here, I'm like, these therapists, we kill ourselves every minute of every day, squeezing as much productivity as we humanly possibly can out of it. And this guy, amazing guy, super sweet, super nice, very smart. He sits there on payroll, mid 6 figures, most likely, until there's a problem. And then when there's a problem, I said, you don't actually solve it. You go and find the people who solve it, because you're not a coder, you're not a marketer, you're not a lawyer, you're not any of these things. You're a connector,
right.
And so you go and find the people that actually do the work. And so to think that a company at that scale can have people around just in case at mid 6-figure salaries is crazy to us, because we know how hard we work and everything we do. So again, yeah, he loves his job, high job satisfaction. But I think somebody else who wants to feel like they have an impact, somebody else who wants to keep a patient from going to a nursing home and staying in their personal residence, I don't think that person would have job satisfaction in that position.
Can I make a prediction?
Please.
So you just described like essentially, my dad was a New York City fireman. The gripe between like cops and firemen was always funny, right? And it was like, well, firemen don't do anything. They just sit around and wait. And I was like, yeah, till the bell rings. And they didn't do a lot of things. But what you just described was the fire chief. Yeah. Fire chief wears a helmet, but doesn't typically run in the building, except when he's needed to put the people in the right position to stop the fire from spreading and save people is terribly important. So my prediction is this. You mentioned sort of project management in the future. We know now, it used to be media companies had tech divisions. Now tech companies and every company has a media division or a media person. I think there's going to be a media person in 3 to 5 years, maybe even less, that's making a lot of money and their job is to come in. You just described a consultant. I'm going to come in and go, like, what's your biggest problem? I will not know how to graphic design. I won't shoot a video. I won't stand in front of a camera. I won't hold a microphone, but I'll be able to put the pieces together to go, oh, okay, here's the campaign we should run. Because we understand, and this is a good radio segue into my gripe, my complaint of the day, which is we're not in the healthcare business. Someone disagreed with me and took a few, I don't know. I took it, I was like, maybe this is a person taking a shot. So I'll share the original post. I shared this at PT Pintcast on Facebook. And the original post was this. And I said, healthcare isn't tell business. Healthcare is show business. The faster you realize that, the more people you can help, right? Now, off the bat, Tony, does this seem cryptic to you? That's a word I want to use because I was accused of this as being cryptic. Does that seem cryptic to use?
No, that seems pretty straightforward.
All right. Now, I could see that someone doesn't understand it or says like, hey, get to the point. I thought in 3 sentences, I got to the point. Right. But I can go deeper and say, hey, just because you don't understand it just because I think I was clear doesn't mean you're going to understand it. So here's what I meant. If we keep telling people that we're evidence-based, I'll use this example a lot, or have these certifications, or we're the great report from the APTA that they put out that showed how fantastic and how cost savings we were in certain conditions, that's telling people what we can do. I like it better when I'm on Instagram and I see some random PT clinic from Iowa. I don't know why we're always making fun of Iowa, but middle of nowhere, Iowa. Love you, Iowa. And they make a great video about a person and how they helped a person get back to doing person things. To me, the difference is tell versus show. Show me that person that looks like me. The faster you realize that, the more people you can help. So that is what I was getting at with my post. But you understand that you have to be brief and get there. Well, then comes the complaint, because the theme today is complaints. So I don't know Dave. His name looks familiar. Maybe I've interacted with him online. Dave disagrees and says healthcare is a money business. Let's try stopping these cryptic posts, dude. What are you talking about? You have a good platform. Throw a hard punch. Call the APTA out for being in bed with Mills. Call them out on cuts. Follow through. Hold on a second. Dave lost me real quick. Did I mention the APTA at all in my original post? I don't feel like I did. I also don't think I was cryptic, but maybe I was unclear. Dave continues in his post. Hell, if you think healthcare is truly a business, tell me what business can survive on 3 to 15% less yearly based on whimsical slashes. Look at Prime Day, tons of profit on perceived sales. Thank you for proving my point, Dave. Prime Day is all about attention, but we'll keep going. You don't need another cash-based PT guru. Sorry to the GTs and ALs. I think I know what he's talking about there. You need someone to throw a punch and show up the system. Again, I don't know who the system is. Is APTA the system? Is CMS? Is insurance companies? Because he hasn't brought insurance companies up, right? So, hey, if someone's being cryptic, Dave, I'm a little lost. But we're only halfway through. Maybe he clears it up. You're a part of AOPT. Because I do communications consulting for the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, because I think they have a lot of good information and they need to get it out. You're part of AOPT, yet no OCS will likely see a raise, but we do it for the love of patient care. Maybe that's why you do it, Dave, but please don't extrapolate your own feelings on the rest of the profession. We'll do that ourselves. I love what I do. I hate my industry. We can no longer put makeup on this dead pig. I think it's lipstick on a pig, but I like the analogy. We need to be better, throw a hard punch, speak a hard truth. It's more moving than a pleasant lie.
And really quick, this is Dave Graham. This is not Dave Kittle. This is not a Dave Kittle post. It's a different Dave. You only said his first name. I got to make sure for the audience out there, if they're listening on audio or something. Okay, go ahead.
Sometimes I forget we do a podcast. The radio guy forgot we do a podcast. So I just responded and said, hey, Dave, love multiple perspectives. Didn't think this was being cryptic. Happy to discuss on a live stream. What's a good email address? I would love to have had him on live. He did not respond for comment. I DM'd him a few days later and said, sorry, I didn't get this, whatever. So here's the thing. Number one, I didn't think I was being cryptic. And if his first line is disagree, healthcare is a money business. I also agree. Two things can be true. You can't really make money unless you get someone's attention. Not today, you can't. Maybe 15, 20 years ago when it was just maybe referral based, or you could buy all the media in a market at a reasonable rate and own the market, right? Then you could buy attention. Now you can still buy attention. So I do think money's in play. But I think the beginning of the point of my very cryptic quote or post was you have to earn attention. And I love to bring up funnels and pyramids, but we love to talk about this know, like, trust. And that is based on attention, not money. Because if I keep paying you for you to know, like, and trust me, the minute I stop paying, the minute you stop knowing me, liking me, and trusting me. There are relationships like that. It's called the oldest profession. It's a transactional relationship. I will hang out with you as long as you are handing me money. So I do think healthcare is a money business, but what I'm getting at is you have to earn people's attention first. And then he went into some sideways rants about me needing to take a shot at the APTA. Do you think the APTA is up at 8:30 in the morning watching me or caring what we're doing on this live stream? Maybe they are. I mean, you know, a nice place in my heart. I will wrap and then get your thoughts. My wrap is I am a member of APTA, and here is my decision tree for doing so. And I'll share this with everybody because I was talking about this online as well. If you agree with APTA, and by agree, you don't have to agree with everything. Just do you think they're good for the greater good? Are they worth $500 a year? If you think so, join APTA. If you don't join APTA. But both of those lead to immediately begin working on solving your own problems. This fork in the road diverges and then comes right back. And that's repeat. That's it. I don't hand APTA $500 and go, they've got it from here. I'll just sit back and wait for them to solve stuff. I'm glad they solve problems I don't know how to solve, agree that needs solving, and I'm glad someone else is doing it. Just like the person that fixes my air conditioning unit. No one needs to get done. I don't really know how he does it. Would hope it comes through. But I do check in, and every year when I go to re-up for $500, I sort of look and decide every single year if that decision tree is part of it.
I think Dave Kittle come into the conversation. You kind of, do that. You went concierge, cash based, you built your business, you're not dependent on reimbursement, you're not dependent on any of the factors that so many people tend to complain about. Now, I totally empathize with Dave Graham's. I relate to what he's saying. I understand it. I think he's frustrated. I think he had that comment loaded and ready to go and was just looking for a place to share it.
Yep.
So I get it. But at the same time, I want to hear from Dave Kittle. You went left when everybody else is trying to go right.
So yeah, I'll put some more behind that in a second. I agree with you, Tony. I was in my mind, I was ready to say the exact same thing, which is Dave Graham's had this preconceived thing about the OCS, the APTA, the profession, all the and even the shot at the cash PT gurus, whatever. Like he had all of this ready to roll. He's been thinking about this stuff for, I don't know, years or whatever. And your random post about healthcare is show business, like, was not even a call to action for him to post his beliefs and his emotions and all that. But he just, Tony, he just needed a place. He just wanted to get that out there. And it's like, I don't really see the connection completely. Like his comment is like a separate post to itself.
One seems a little cryptic. I wanted to say, who hurt you?
Yes, exactly.
Let's you on the show. Who hurt you? And you being annoyed at doing these things and not getting the result that you thought is completely valid. Except those promises weren't made, right? We were taught when we take the NPTE, make sure you answer the question being asked. Like, make sure you understand the promises being made, right? And just because someone told you this somewhere, oh, become an OCS, you'll make more money. Did those organizations who, I don't like the OCS, like that's not even APTA, that's ABPTRFE or AB. I don't know. There's a lot of acronyms or acronyms in PT, but yeah, who hurt you, Dave? Like, let's get you on the show. Let's get to the bottom of this.
Yes, but then Tony was saying that, you know, I went a different direction with my practice versus what was available. So, you know, this is another thing. Like there's a lot of Facebook groups, including there's a New York State PT group. Jimmy's probably in it, I don't know, but in New York, like some of these insurance payers are paying like an embarrassingly low rate, like $50 a visit or 60 or even 70 or whatever. And I guess if you have a volume-based clinic and you have an outpatient clinic, maybe you can make it work. You got to be really good, though. You got to be good operationally and also legally and compliantly with coding. But you got to be really good operationally to have some model, kind of like a Tony Maritato model that like makes sense, and you have you know, a flow and the ability to actually make it profitable. I looked at those reimbursement rates and hearing all that, I'm like, why? Like starting my practice back in, I don't know, like 2017 or something. Like, I'm not going to go and try to even get into these insurance in-network contracts. A lot of the panels are probably closed anyway, but it's like, why would I even go and try to do that? It just, I don't know how else, Tony, if you want to like ask follow-up questions, then we can dissect it. But like, I just looked at like, I was doing some part-time, you know, around Vinicial, and Vinicial was kind of phasing out. And I was doing some part-time work at 2 different outpatient offices, and one like mobile concierge type practice. And so I saw the differences. I got to see the really interesting people that I was meeting in their homes, or like the people that were using the mobile practice. I thought that was really interesting because I thought that I was potentially meeting people that I'm building networks, building relationships, building connections in the future, people who I want to kind of potentially become. These are my patients or clients. That seemed more interesting to me. And then also I could learn in between the visits. I could put in an audiobook or a podcast, and I could learn and I could get more perspectives between visits. So that's kind of why I went that whole path.
It sounds like I'm channeling Chris Voss here.
Label.
Sounds like you understood you looked at the landscape, you assessed it, understood what you liked and didn't like, and you chose your path accordingly.
I did. And I also did not go on Facebook or LinkedIn and have a screaming match at the ether to say, you know, the APT is against me. They have not done anything for my student loans, which obviously I paid off, you know, many years ago. I don't complain about the profession. I think we have an awesome profession. Like, we help people. There's no side effects. We're not selling, I don't know, the pharmaceuticals that have side effects or anything that can result in someone going into the hospital. I mean, we have an awesome profession. I also use what I've learned, by the way, this never gets talked, by the way. This never gets talked about. The things that I've learned as a physical therapist with my weekend baseball and my aches and pains or whatever, how I can treat myself, help my wife, help my family. That's worth $250,000 itself, by the way, I believe. So you never hear this about you using your knowledge to help yourself with your health and wellness and longevity and all that. Yeah. That is extremely valuable. No one ever talks about it. I could go on and on, but yeah, I mean, I went this path, and being in New York City, also with the cost of like rent or whatever, with an outpatient office in the beginning, it was like, this seems like a low barrier to entry. There's flexibility. I could get out of it anytime. I don't have to sign any lease or whatever. So there were all these factors, but no, I didn't go on Facebook and create a Facebook group or start some, war with cash PT gurus or the APTA or the old guard or the new guard or whatever.
Tony is the person I know that complains the least. So I'm very eager to hear what he has to say about this.
Oh, okay. Well, talk to my wife. That's what she said.
Let's get her on.
So, two things that Dave brought up that I think are super important. And again, like Dave said, nobody talks about if I have a competitive advantage, so if I can deliver something for less cost to the consumer, why would I not do that? If I have scale and I have multiple locations and I have a team in place and I can deliver a service for a $50 day rate or a $35 day rate, and I can still do that profitably, isn't it my responsibility in some sense to do that, to leverage that, to take advantage of that, bring the cost of care down, expose more consumers to what we can do, and still do it profitable? But I know that there are so many therapists who maybe don't have that competitive advantage. And so they're mad, they're angry, they want every payer to pay more, but there are other ways to get paid more. So I think that, I know I've seen in Facebook groups where somebody will be willing to take a low paying salary. But Dave just said it, and I did the same thing as Dave. Like, I took, $12 an hour, $10 an hour before I was a therapist to work for a place where I'd learned so much. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on our education, not even being able to work half the time to learn, and we paid a price. And so it's the same thing now. Don't shame somebody, whether it be a practice owner for accepting a $35 day rate or an employed therapist for accepting a $25 an hour position. Don't shame them for doing that, because they're doing that for a reason, whether it be out of necessity or desire. Nobody tells a therapist who's going to take a residency at a 30% cut in salary, don't do it. There's always a value exchange there. And then to Dave's point about our education and using that in our own lives, like, you are totally right. We every time I get injured, every time I get hurt, my kids, my wife, whoever it is, like, I'm using that information. Now, for me, most of the time it's like, it's fine. It'll go away. I don't know why it hurts. It just hurts. Don't worry about it. It's not dangerous. That's what I took from my 20 years of experience. But it is still a huge value, because I also know people who have no idea what's going on with their body, and they go to the emergency room and they get all this imaging and they go down that road, and they'll spend over a decade $250,000 in medical costs. So where do we go from here, guys? Dave had a topic. Back to Fox, I think.
Yes. So I would like to compare the business model of, my concierge pain relief, the business model, versus Fox Rehab versus Tony Maritato's Total Therapy Solutions. There's pros and cons to all of them. I believe that Fox Rehab, even though, I guess they're kind of my competitor, but not really, I think that they have the greatest therapy business model of all time. And I will get into it really quickly right now. Here's some things that I've come across over the past maybe year or two with certain therapists that I've hired. One is so half of our clientele is geriatric, neuro, gait, balance, but the other half of the clientele are busy professionals. They could be 40, 50, 60 years old. They're lawyers, accountants. They work in finance. They're very stressed. They're very successful. They're busy. They want someone to come to them because they don't want to go to an outpatient office. I didn't realize this at first. It took me probably too many years to realize this. But the orthopedic, busy professional side of the practice, COVID was a little bit easier to schedule visits because they were home, right? They were doing Zoom calls from home. So it was easier to schedule. But before COVID, and now let's say last year, 2023, and now 2024, some of my therapists will sometimes have difficulty scheduling and booking these clients for home visits, because those client visits have to be scheduled around business travel now, which is restored, Zoom calls, meetings, in-person meetings, Zoom calls that are mandatory, whatever, very, very important things that have to get done. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because Fox Rehab is, for the most part, Medicare Part B. And I've known a lot of clients, I've known a lot of therapists that have worked there. Jimmy can maybe shine some light on it. But basically, I'll say that the therapists that work for Fox Rehab, they have a census of a bunch of patients that live in a certain zip code. That's one area that's different for us, because we have we're marketing to this big area of New York City, but we don't have a ton of patients in one zip code. Fox Rehab has so much saturation, which I know took years, and kudos to them because they have mastered the marketing and the networking and building the brand and all that. They'll have a therapist that kind of covers one or two zip codes at a time. For us right now, at our size, Fox is massive. It's so much easier for them to do that. But also the clientele that are Medicare Part B are obviously 65 or 75 plus. They're usually at home. They have a very flexible schedule. They don't have the Zoom calls, the work travel, anything like that. And I'll jokingly say that like some of these patients will kind of say like, yeah, like come whenever, or the therapist is like, oh, I'll stop in sometime tomorrow. My therapist and my clients can't do that because half of our clientele are the busy professionals. So Fox Rehab has this, and then also cost, right? Insurance basically costs nothing out of pocket versus for my clients, we're saying, hey, we don't take Medicare. So it's going to be $250, $350 per visit. You want a weekend visit, it's going to be $400 or $500. So the consumer, the healthcare consumer, the client, for us has to make a decision to pay a premium rate, take out their credit cards, sign the paperwork, all that. There's a lot more involved to get a client onboarded with us. And with Tony Maritato, or any other outpatient office, it's kind of in the middle, but then they have to actually go and drive there, right? So Fox makes it very convenient. And there's
Let's do this. Let's make sure, because we probably should have done this first. Let me blow through the Fox Rehab model because I worked there really quickly. Because from
whatever I missed, yeah, go ahead.
So it's Medicare Part B, which really is outpatient PT in your home. That's where some people get confused. And the first thing I had to learn when I started at Fox, which is this is not home care. This is not home health, which is a different thing. That would be Medicare Part A, right? You guys are the experts, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So the model started, so this is where you get a little history, is Tim Fox was working at a clinic and he would get a referral and then that person would never show up. And he'd follow up and be like, where's Mrs. Johnson? And it's like, well, Mrs. Johnson getting to the clinic is too hard for her. She can't get to the thing. She's thirsty. She can't get to the oasis. She ain't going to make it. So he did a thing where this goes back to full circle with my conversation with Dave Grams. He understood what business he was in. So he went to the doctors and said, give me your hardest patients, the patients that are never going to make it, right? They're never going to make it to the clinic. And then he told me anyway, I don't know how accurate the story is. Sometimes it gets a little fairy tale-ish, but he said, I went to the library or went to wherever the Medicare CMS books and looked up, can I provide outpatient physical therapy? Does it matter where I am? Do I need to have a clinic? Do I need to be underneath a roof that's certified? And from what he could find, the answer was no. So he did outpatient physical therapy in their home. And all those things now become full circle to what Dave was talking about. I know from helping to take care of my dad for the last 8 months, I'm juggling my schedule and his 35 things, and he doesn't want to get up before 11 and his other doctor's appointments. They understood what business they were in. They weren't in the physical therapy business. They were in the meeting you where you are business. They were in the simplicity business. They were in the over-serving you business. They understood their biggest gripes. And as they say in 8 Mile, right, the last rap battle, he took all the bullets out of the other person's gun. He's like, oh, you can't come to a clinic because you're so got it. And that's why their model is so fantastic. Plus, they have really great PTs, OTs, and SLPs. Their clinicians are fantastic because they understand what business they're in. They're now allowed to have a flexible, it feels like a commercial for Fox, a flexible schedule because they work out of their cars and they get to work exactly for the patients they want to. And the organization, the company, the practice is like, we don't care when you do it. Get it done. You're a professional. You're autonomous. Get it done though. Like get it done right. And they have a ton of quality assurance. So it's like, get it done well, and lather, rinse, repeat. So that's their model. It might look similar, but it's a little bit different. That's why it works everywhere. Because look around. There's older adults. Look over there. Older adult.
So Dave, Brian Williams. Brian Williams has a great kind of outpatient in the home business, way bigger than I understood initially. But I'm going to ask you, so what made the difference between Fox growing and scaling to that size, Brian growing and scaling to his size? I talked to another therapist recently, 30 clinicians doing outpatient in the home, and then the other 1,000 who can barely get enough referrals for just them to stay busy full time. What do you see? What's the missing link there? Why isn't everybody exploding their business in the same way?
Oh, come on. That's too easy. This is a softball question.
No.
I mean, not everyone has the a couple things. Not everyone has the persistence, the marketing, or the operational gusto to actually get the patients. Not everyone is marketing or has the ability to figure out how to get more new patients, more prospective patients, get them seen, grow a team. There's some, I think the newer therapists that have the solo practices, or the mobile practice owners that are, solo or have one therapist or something like that. Maybe there's some of that old therapy owner ego that like they have to do everything and want to, all the referrals are to them in their name. I don't know. I mean, there's probably some other things, but like people like Brian Williams and others, especially Tim Fox, which I mean, they're slightly two different business models.
They're in the figure out who you want to serve and what their biggest problems are game. And then how they do it. How they do it is physical. It's not what they do, it's how they do it.
They're both definitely, even with us, it's convenience. So we're more convenient than Tony's practice because you have to go drive there. Even though, of course, Tony's got great parking, you could drive right up. And for some people, that's the beauty of, just healthcare and just the business in general. Some people will never want a home visit. Yeah. They're perfect for Tony's practice and any other outpatient office in Ohio. And, they can just drive right up. And Tony's like, hey, we got, you walk 5 steps, you're from your car to the front door, like easy peasy, easy parking lot, easy to get in and out of the parking lot, all that. So all that's figured out. But with Fox Rehab versus like Brian Williams or my practice, the difference with the convenience, like we both offer convenience, but the difference of like who is the payer, that's a huge factor with scale and hiring and all that. But then at the same time, there's pros and cons, right? So like I can pay a full-time physical therapist way more than Fox Rehab. I could pay a full-time physical therapist $100,000 to $120,000. And Fox Rehab has some limitations with their upside because of the reimbursement of Medicare Part B. They can only pay a therapist a certain ceiling because there's no change in that Medicare Part B reimbursement. So 15, 20 years from now, Fox Rehab is not going to be able to have pay raises built in for their therapists, which is a whole other, story. But there's certainly pros and cons in the convenience business and the therapy business.
I think it's understand what business you're in. Like I started a podcast in 2015. It's 2024 and I'm sitting here doing it now. I've had some pretty good success. Do you want to know the reasons why? Because I showed up twice a week, every week for 9.5 years. And I understood what business I was in, which is I was not the smartest physical therapist. I was a student when I started the podcast. I used that to my advantage. So I just knocked on doors, played the student card and said, hey, Becky Bliss, can you teach me about concussion in 20 minutes? And she was like, sure. And then I just kept doing that because I was in the education. Well, I was probably in the entertainment because I wanted to make it fun. Those are my rules. Like have fun, learn stuff. I was in the entertainment, have fun, learn stuff business. If you're in the delivering physical therapy a traditional way business, you'll be competing that way. And if people don't want that, they won't come to you. Like this whole episode, we see this happen almost every week. We start at 8:15 texting each other. We're going live in 15 minutes. What the hell are we talking about today? And the theme emerges. And the theme I think today is complain all you want. It doesn't matter. The way to succeed is understand what business you're actually in, step back. And then I like, you brought this up a second ago, Dave, in terms of processes. It makes me think of Marcus Lemonis and his 3 Ps, people, product, process. Fox has people, product, process. The people running your organization, are they good people or bad people? If they're not great, get them out. That's people. Product, what do you actually provide? How you provide it is physical therapy to go with the Fox model. What you provide is simplicity, security, quality, all the things on that pyramid I love to bring up. You can do a whole case study on Fox and what they provide here. And then process, because if there's no process, no scale. You will remain a solopreneur. You will be angry you paid for that OCS. You'll rage against the APTA. And the APTA is like, I don't even know, because they understand what business they are in.
Tony, did I answer your question?
One of the things that I think it was Seth Godin, he has this comparison where he said, people will go into business because they have a whole bunch of stuff to sell and they're going to go try to find people to buy the stuff they already have, or they're going to find the people who want to buy something and then figure out if they can source and deliver what it is they want to buy. So in my business, I went into it as a business person who became a PT. So I was like, what's the problem? How do I solve this problem? Originally for me, I lived on Siesta Key. It was a small island community. It was a hassle for patients to get off the island. I'm like, I'm going to bring physical therapy to Siesta Key. I was not a physical therapist. But there are a lot of therapists who are struggling because they're like, I am a physical therapist. I want to deliver the best physical therapy. They have 20 years of inventory of something that they want to sell. Now they're trying to find somebody who is willing to buy it. It's a very different locus of control with that.
Yep. That's a great way to look at it, right? We got to slap that thing down, flip it, and reverse it, don't we, Dave?
We do. Shout out to my buddy Alyssa Tiffany from college. She sent my wife and I this video of a physical therapist, Missy Elliott's private physical therapist, who, by the way, I think he was a initial customer. What's his name? McKinney, Alex McKinney up in Boston, Marathon Physical Therapy practice owner. And I met him at PPS years ago, and I'm pretty sure that he was a initial customer, or I was, he was a prospect or something. So I've known him for years ago. And this video emerges of him dancing backstage, and it came out that he's Missy Elliott's private physical therapist. And she tweeted it. She posted the video on, I think, her Instagram. And by the way, Missy Elliott, or whoever is running her account, is replying to like everyone's comments. Like, obviously he's got like kind of quirky dance moves. That's kind of like the funny thing, but like she's given him so much kudos. And she also said, I don't know if do you have it? Do you want to screen share it, or do you need me to link
video,
it?
Yeah. Dude is living his best life, dude.
Absolutely. So the video is one thing. Do you have access to the tweet or the
no, I just grabbed the video.
All right. So
she said something along the lines of keeping me and my dancers like at our top, like keeping them on tour. This is Missy Elliott understanding what business she's in. She's in a longevity business. How she stays in a longevity business is performing, over delivering, right? She understands what business she is. This dude understood what business he was in. I don't know how he got hooked up with Missy Elliott, but he was like, I know what I sell. Let's find people that need that.
So I'll read the caption really quickly. Missy Elliott, who, by the way, has my phone. I'll look at the followers after, but she's got millions of followers. She said, my physical therapist on the road with me is my biggest cheerleader. Every show, not only is he making sure my joints are warmed up, he is on the side of the stage making sure all my dancers' energy stays up. He be doing his own dance moves, though. Love it. He is good energy. Get it, Alex. And then she tags his Instagram account, his username. And so then he gets, I think last night he only had like 500 or 600 followers. She's got 5.5 million just on Instagram. And I think she also tweeted this as well. So like kudos to her and her media team for like sharing this and tagging the physical therapist. And the fact that this now gets out into millions, in front of millions of people. People are going to, people that like Missy Elliott, they're going to click on this. They're going to look at this.
Shouldn't we ask the social media person for Missy Elliott to talk more about the fact that he has an OCS, or if he doesn't, or certifications? Or how about she helps Missy Elliott? Pop quiz. What's Missy Elliott's middle name?
No idea.
Misdemeanor. That is Missy Misdemeanor Elliott. Come on. Didn't think we were going to be talking Missy Elliott though. But this guy understood the assignment, and you can too. I mean, I've talked to people who are Formula One driver PTs. Like, that's super niche. There's no reason for them to hire you except they understand that their neck needs to be in shape, or they don't drive. If they don't drive, they don't make money. They don't make money. They don't eat. So understand, like, find those people you want to be around and figure out how you can overserve those people.
So now is this Alex's Haktua moment? Like, is this?
Yes, it could be. Yes, exactly.
I just sent him a connection request through LinkedIn. So let's see.
Can we live try to get him on the show? Like, Dave, can your people talk to his people? Like, how does this work?
I mean, I haven't talked to him
he's working.
years.
Do you know how I got the job working for K-Rock where Howard Stern was? I just kept sending demo tapes. I went to a tiny little college in the middle of nowhere that no one ever heard of. I had no connections, just kept sending demo tapes. I would love to know how this happened because, however, what's the PT's name?
Alex.
I'm going to guess this was an accident, serendipity, or persistence. Like, I understand that, like, when your uncle is the CBS vice president, you can get an internship working for Howard Stern. That happened. But when I looked around that room of the 13 interns, I realized, like, oh, 8 of us, like, hustled this thing in because we wanted it. Like, I understood. I knew the target. I didn't really understand how to get there. I just kept doing it. I don't want to say I faked it till I made it. I just kept banging on the door. And I would love to know how Alex did this. My guess is he earned it. And I just want to know, I just want other people to understand that it's there for you. I'm not selling. There's no course here, guys. I'm not selling the secret, but just do it.
Jimmy, I don't know, Tony, maybe not. Have you heard of Jay Balvin? Jimmy, have you heard of Jay Balvin?
No.
All right. Well, he is where is he from? Colombia, I think. He is a huge Spanish-speaking artist, like one of the biggest in the world. Like, other than what's the other guy from Puerto Rico? No, the newer guy.
So you know how old I am. I just yelled out Ricky Martin.
Okay, so this artist Jay Balvin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he looks familiar. Yeah.
50 million followers on Instagram. 50 million. Okay, so Kat Cano is a physical therapist. She lives like real close to Manhattan, but on the Jersey side, and she is his private physical therapist. She's recorded videos like on his private jet and like on tour and before and after concerts and events or whatever. I love it. I think the more that this is possible, and some artists have their own chiropractor or their own personal physical therapist or whatever, the more that this gets out there, like this is just free, like, branding from.
Yeah, I don't want to. I agree with that. I don't want the focus to be like, this is how you make it. Alex understood he's in the relationship business, so he probably did a lot more listening to Missy Elliott than talking about himself. And then he understood, like, I don't know, is Missy Elliott somebody I can and want to help on a regular basis? And then he figured out how to do that. And now he's standing on the sign doing way better dance moves than I could. You can mock this guy's dancing all you want. I can't. I'm even more 10 times awkward. But, like, this is full circle. Like, understand what business you're in. Alex is in the you living your best life business. And while he's helping Missy Elliott live her best life and her dancers, he's living his best life.
Jimmy, you think you dated yourself with Ricky Martin? When Dave was talking about Spanish-speaking singers, I thought of Julio Iglesias.
I said, the first thing I said was Iglesias, but I meant his son. What was his son's name?
I don't
the other
know.
Iglesias.
Ricky Martin.
Then there was another Iglesias. This might be a good time to end the show if we're stuck on Iglesias and Ricky Martin.
All right, real quick, before we end, we got a couple of minutes here. Last night, I was reminded, and this is real tactical. So anybody watching, and you guys can chime in. You've heard me say this before. I fell off the wagon. I was doing blog posts constantly. I had done, I want to say 500 blog posts last calendar year. ChatGPT made it possible from a tactical perspective. So you listening now, you can't just use ChatGPT to write content. It's never going to be good enough. And we know that Google and SEO wants it to be unique, wants different perspectives. So somebody was asking me yesterday about how I created this content, and I was like, oh, let me share it with everybody. Here's the simple formula. I go in with an idea to ChatGPT. I say, hey, I want to write a series of articles on this topic. Right now, I'm talking about 2 things, RTM and dry needling. And so I said, hey, this is the topic. Let's create an outline together, 5-part outline, because that's typically, a 1,500 word article. So I say, give me a 5-part outline. ChatGPT generates it. I say, I want these topics included. It regenerates a better outline. And then I said, I want you to be a ghostwriter I want you to interview me. I want you to ask me a specific question to each section in the article. And I want you to use my tone of voice and content that I share in my response in the article, but then, add your own information to it to make it more comprehensive. I want each section to be at least 150 to 300 words, and I give it a couple other prompts. And then the beauty is I do that on the desktop first, and then I switch to my app on my phone, because on my phone, I'll hit the little voice recorder. If you don't have a nice mic connected to your desktop, ChatGPT will ask me one question at a time per section. I'll just record my answer and I'll just talk into my phone. And just like a Jimmy was asking me or Dave was asking me, it'll transcribe my response. It'll put that into its chat. Once we finish the 5 sections, then I'll have it generate the final article one section at a time, because it still can't handle a full article yet.
Right.
And then I tell it to write me each response using HTML formatting. I want H2 tags. I want bullet points. I want underlines. And so I give it the formatting prompts because I want something that's very interesting to look at and read. And literally last night, 15 minutes from start to finish, I had a finished article with my unique perspectives. I think I did one for dry needling, one for RTM. It was awesome, and anybody could do this on any topic.
What you could also do now, I'm sure you've done this probably, but other people, is like, now take that article and get someone to ask you 5 questions and turn it into a video. That's a 5-10 minute video, and take that 5-10 minute video and make it 5 to 10 minute, 30-second clips. Like, understand that this ain't tell business. This is show business. You don't tell people. You need to show people, right? We always tell people, show the coach how much work you're going to do, right? Don't just tell them I'm a hard worker. Show them. Show beats tell.
Tony, I would love, I don't know if you've done it, but screen sharing that type of a video, like a 15-minute video for your YouTube, like the screen share of building that whole, like going through the prompts and building that whole article through ChatGPT from start to finish, I think would get a lot of views for you.
Now here's the math. Here's the decision point. Of the people listening, I'm talking to you. You're thinking, maybe this is too hard. No, maybe I can do it. Tony's going to walk me right through it. Everybody's going to be doing this. So I'm now one of a million people doing this. You're not. It quite literally, like, luck favors the bold. Luck favors the people that show up. I'm telling you, it's not too late to begin doing what Tony just described. It seems like the world is crowded. It seems like YouTube's saturated. It seems like starting a podcast is a crazy idea. I'm telling you, you don't understand how 2 things on both ends of the bell curve: how large the world actually is and how lazy most people actually are. And I'm telling you, the juice is worth a squeeze on creating things, because we are not in healthcare. It's not a tell business. It's a show business.
All right. I'm going to be the nice guy in this. I'm going to say they're not lazy. I'm going to say they're insecure. Yes. And they're busy working. We're stuck on that hamster wheel. I talk to so many therapists, PTs, OTs, SLPs. Every minute of every day is being squeezed so tight to make a living that they don't have the creative time. The 3 of us can sit here for an hour and just talk about stuff because we kind of stepped out of the matrix. We stepped out of that world. We were able to do this. Not everybody necessarily has that ability right this minute. One other thing that I want to throw out there, I don't know if anyone's using it. I don't think any of the 3 of us are, but I'm going to trial it. It's a company called HeyGen, HeyGen. It's a video AI tool. Basically, it'll create avatars for you, or it will record you and turn you into a video avatar, so that, like Jimmy was kind of saying, I could take that article now, tell GPT to distill it down into a 2 or 3 minute video script. I can put that video script into a program like HeyGen, and then it will use video of me creating a video that can go on YouTube. Now, I just saw an ad on my Facebook feed. Obviously, AI generated video of a girl, right? Like, there's no doubt the lips and everything was kind of wonky. But I go back to, we need to start understanding how these tools work now, even though they're not ready for prime time, because they will be. They're gonna come. They're gonna get better exponentially faster. So if we can start playing with this, if I don't have the time to create original video, which for me is just faster to turn on the camera, I can upload a script. I can let the AI do it for me, and then I can put it out to the community. And it's my actual words. It's my content. It's my information. I'm just letting the video creator, generator create the video.
It's wild. This stuff, it's simple, not easy. Like, I'm just telling you, like, if you were asking me, is the juice worth the squeeze on paying attention, learning these skills? My answer would be yes.
All right, parting shots, guys. What do you got?
Dave, what do you got?
I'm going to use Scott's comment here. He commented live, Scott, at Health Mention. Everyone wants to grow, but nobody wants to change. I think that is just perfect for today, or at least from my perspective.
Everybody wants biceps. Nobody does curls. Tony, what do you got?
I'm gonna double down on Scott. He's doing a great job with his LinkedIn. He's putting a lot of great content out there. He talked about the difference between being a manager and being a leader. The leader inspires. People are drawn to leaders. The manager is really just kind of the enforcer. I always hope to stay out of the manager role. I love leadership and following great leaders.
I'm going to end on a note that seems a little sad, but it's not. So I went to a tiny little Catholic university in upstate New York called St. Bonaventure. And there was this larger than life character who lived on campus, was at the university for, 30 plus years. And he passed away this week. And it sounds like, oh my gosh, we don't do obituaries here on the show, do we? His name was Father Dan. And he would live in the dorms like 2 or 3 nights a week with an open door. So when you're maybe coming back from the bar, there's his door, and he was sipping a drink himself, and he would have conversations. He knew where his audience was, and he knew when we were most susceptible to having a conversation. It wasn't at noon. It was at 2:15 in the morning. And he would have perfect example of a great interviewer is you'd come in and he would have an open-ended question, and then wherever you wanted to go, Father Dan, I don't know if God exists. He would take the con side. He'd let you play pro, but he understood that the goal was the conversation. So Father Dan, an institution where I went to school, hopefully they name a building or several buildings after Father Dan, they will. But understand, Father Dan understood what game he was in. He was not in the finger wagging. You weren't at church yesterday. You got to get there. He met people quite literally where they were at 2 a.m. in the dorms and had those conversations. Be more like that. Not a religious thing, not a become a brother or a friar, but can you be that Father Dan type person in someone's life? I think we have a great opportunity. And to the people that do that, now get to stand on the side stage and do whatever dance they want at the Missy Misdemeanor Elliott concert. Do whatever you want. Gentlemen, we'll see you back on Thursday. At PT Pintcast is where you can find me, Dave Kittle, Concierge Pain Relief, Tony Maritato. You've got your Learn Medicare billing. We've got all these things. We should put them in a signature somewhere and just make sure people can find us.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.